Hey guys, it's Lorith here. This week's video is going to be a bit different because I haven't had a lot of time to work on the project this week. I didn't finish a win condition like I had planned, but that's because I did a dry run and just pretended my idea was implemented, and when simulating the gameplay of that win condition, the experience wasn't really that fun. The whole point of a prototype is to prove a game can be fun, and it wasn't. So I went back to the drawing board a bit. So here's what I've done. Zombies don't have uniform stats anymore. Every zombie's stat exists as a point on a triangle slider between speed, health, and damage dealt. On average, zombies are slower and have more health, but every once in a while you run into like an Olympic runner zombie who you have to take out quickly before he gets a bite out of your health bar. Some slow zombies might have high damage instead of high health, but right now the player getting caught by slow zombies isn't a huge concern. From a technical perspective, the new zombie stats are created by assigning each of the three stats a value between 0 and 1, and then dividing all three of those values by the total of the three values. Then, this final value is assigned as a linear interpolation between a minimum and a maximum value, and assigned to the zombie stats. All these operations are performed when a zombie spawns. So, with what I actually did out of the way, I want to talk about the concept of engagement. The goal of any entertainment product is to garner some kind of engagement from the person or people consuming it. There are several ways to do this. In video games, the most common ways we generate engagement can be divided into two categories. Category 1 I'm going to call passive engagement. I describe it as passive because none of the things I'm categorizing here actually involve asking much from the player. In this category, I place action spectacle, engrossing story, evolving gameplay, unpredictable outcomes, and statistical progression. Passive engagement is about holding attention, and passive engagement is what you could theoretically get from watching a recording of someone else playing a game with no commentary. In short, a game seeking to passively engage you looks cool to watch, makes you want to see what happens next, what new thing it has in store, just how high a number can go, or in a multiplayer game, who will win. Category 2 is active engagement. Active engagement is about how player input influences what's happening on the screen, either minute to minute or in the long term. Meaningful decisions, creative freedom, open-ended progression or goals, and finally challenges, which themselves can be divided into cerebral challenges, motor skill challenges, and mastery challenges, are all examples of active engagement. Active engagement is why we play our games ourselves instead of just watching them on YouTube. Ironically, commentary on a player's active engagement can also create the passive engagement that makes a game great for watching as well. So, ideally, a video game will have both passive and active forms of engagement in it. Looping back to goddamn zombies, we should eliminate which of these types of engagements we know we aren't shooting for right off the bat. From the passive category, I know I'm not going for an engrossing story or statistical progression. That leaves action spectacle, which I can potentially achieve with VFX, evolving gameplay, which I intend to achieve with the upgrade system, and unpredictable outcomes, which I have no real plan for, but I could potentially implement later. From the active category, we can eliminate creative freedom, open-ended progression or goals, and cerebral challenges. This leaves meaningful decisions, which I could implement later but have no plan for, motor skill challenges in dodging the zombies or shooting the most dangerous zombies before they get to you, and mastery challenges, which I could implement later but also have no plan for. All in all, that's a pretty bleak engagement outlook for a game design plan, and I really need to return to the design phase and iterate. For comparison, let's look at a game that I couldn't put down when I played and I've clocked over 100 hours in, Vampire Survivors. Vampire Survivors on the passive engagement side has action spectacle and its large amount of projectiles, enemies, and effects on screen at once. It has 2 layers of involving gameplay. Your weapon loadout evolves over the course of a round, and you also unlock new characters and mechanics that provide you new choices in each round. It has unpredictable outcomes. There's a random element to your in-round progression, and sometimes you get the big slot machine chest that can give you 1 to 5 upgrades. It also has 2 layers of statistical progression. Your items level up and become more effective in the round, and you can also spend gold between rounds to meta progress your entire roster to make the game easier. On the active engagement side, Vampire Survivors has meaningful decisions. The character you play and the build you make over the run have a huge impact on your effectiveness. It has motor skill challenges and dodging its enemies, and also some of its weapons require a proper positioning from the player to achieve their maximum effectiveness. Finally, it has mastery challenges in that the player is rewarded for learning the good combinations and the good synergies, and afforded many layers of difficulty which cannot be completed without applying this knowledge. As you can see, Vampire Survivors has both fluff and substance in abundance. My plans for Goddang Zombies go beyond what I've talked about here, but until now I've never really thought about how those ideas provide real substance to the game, especially not in the way I can demonstrate in a prototype. It's a frustrating state of affairs, but it's important to acknowledge these problems during development instead of powering through and finishing the game as designed. Just finishing what you wrote down is how you end up with bland, uninspired games nobody actually wants to play. Hopefully you've enjoyed this look into my thought process, and hopefully in the coming weeks I'll come up with some ideas to make Goddang Zombies more than a meme game. As always, be inspired.